Okay, guys and girls, I've just been doing a bit more research. This is on the ebrew.com website, and this is miscellaneous winemaking charts. So this should give you an idea as to how much alcohol can be produced with different starting specific gravities. Now, my current mix started at 1070, and it says potential alcohol is only 9.7%. Now, I know that there are some forms of yeast and mixtures and sugars and the rest of it which could actually produce more than that. I was using 6 kilograms of sugar to try and get my wash up, and I got about 8 point something percent alcohol. And that's like, it hasn't gone any further than that. So it could be that I actually need to put in like tons more sugar to try and get up to, a higher specific gravity. It says there starting at 1093 specific gravity. Okay, it can go to 12.8. Obviously, I want a target of about 14. Now, the turbo yeasts themselves, they can do an awful lot more. Okay, because they've got tons of good stuff in them. So the fact I managed to get 8 point something just using 6 kilograms of sugar is not too bad. Not too bad at all. So that's looking quite interesting. It says there I should have 24.9 cane sugar ounces of sugar per gallon to try and get that quantity together. So I think I've probably fallen a little short in some respects. But anyway, it's all rather interesting. Now, the strange thing about what I've done, just quickly run over to the bucket and show you. There's the bucket. Let's get my lights on. There you go, so you can see. I put in the finings. Now, the finings are the things which... Let's get it from the cupboard. There we go. This is the cheap wine finings costing £1 a pack. Okay? Because I'm using that to try and separate out the gunk. And this time it's behaved differently. And what's happened is that there's that mass of bubbles and muck in the corner there. Now that could be because I just didn't stir it properly, which is something I've obviously got to pay attention to, because I'm trying to use this in a very proper and practical sense and turn this into a skill for later in life. But on the other hand, I'll still wait until tomorrow afternoon, leave it 24 hours for it to clear as much as I can prior to getting it into the still. The baking tray that you see there is what I kept all of the saddles. That was the ceramic saddles as well as the boil enhancers. I put the boil enhancers into the body of the still. I've got the ceramic saddles into the vertical column. I've got the copper saddles in place there. It's not very tightly packed, so that should possibly enable a better flow through. Thermometers are in place. I've got the pipes down there, so it's all basically set for me to get distilling tomorrow evening. Now, with the percentage alcohol I've managed to get in the wash or mash or whatever you want to call it, which is down there, I anticipate 2 litres. Okay, if you think about it, a 14% wash in a bucket like that gives you about 3 litres. So I should be able to get about 2, because of course 8% or 8 and a bit percent is about 2/3 of 14, roughly speaking. Obviously I'll put that aside, and the moment it's all done and packed up nicely in the Kilner jars, which is of course the British equivalent of the American mason ball jar, then I'll just get myself some more sugar, and taking into account what I've learned from that fermentation chart, I will make a stronger sugar solution. From what I've learned about the use of the nutrients, which I'll get out here just so you can get an eyeball on it, I'm just going to start off from the top, putting in loads of it, maybe 100 grams or something crazy, okay? Enough for the yeast to have a real good meal. And of course I'll start with a larger quantity of sugar as well. So it's gonna be it's definitely interesting. I'm making more progress. I'm learning more. I'm picking up more skills and getting more, perspective as to how this is actually done, and it's actually quite exciting. My next set of skills, I guess, would be to learn how to harvest wild yeasts, and from the wild yeasts themselves, be able to create a whole load of yeast, which I can then use for fermentation, so I can cut down the cost of the yeast itself. Then it's a question of finding things occurring in nature, which I can either get for free or similar, which will also ferment, possibly after processing, putting it through a juicer or putting it through like a food blender to try and extract any goodness. So that could be anything. Maybe, algae, pondweed. I mean, people say you can make wine from anything. So maybe I can just like harvest some pondweed and some algae and mash that up like crazy, see if I can get any sugars out of it at all, and then ferment that. Okay, it's just a question of finding different forms of food for the yeast. I don't actually know whether, plant life of that type would actually do it, or whether I'd be better off just like growing tons of carrots and just extracting some of the sugars from the carrots themselves. It's difficult. I just have to do even more research, basically. The moment you start on a new hobby or a new venture, you've always got more things to learn, and that's cool. I don't think I can never stop learning about this.